Hello. This is 63, chapter 63. I just looked too, and then I started debating myself as far as like, is this 62 or is this 63? And I just did 62. Um, so I think this is chapter 63, if I recollect. I'm gonna have to start writing this stuff down. Apparently, my name is Roger. And I'm suicidal at times. Not all the time, thankfully, but weekly, bi-weekly, whenever the world gets up in my grill, sometimes I start thinking dark thoughts, and then I go to suicide, thinking about suicide. But even though that does happen, I am not in any way, shape, or form a mental health expert or practitioner or provider or anything else. So this is just my perspective. And really that's what we're going to talk about today, is just my perspective anyway. So now you know. All right. Yes. What are we going to talk about? Yeah. So, I'm just, and again, I don't teach painting, but I paint a lot, and it helps me. So, but one thing I will say is, like, some people may, and I don't know, I don't read comments, and I don't, like, interact too much because I'm on to the next thing, kind of. But in the painting, if you notice, I always start with the darkest, pretty much. I mean, not always, because sometimes I actually, when I'm going through it, I realize I should have started a little darker on something. So, but the whole idea is you go dark, and then you lighten it up as you layer on more color. I think I don't want to over explain that. You start dark. I mean, you need both dark and light, and that's why, if we're going to talk about, like, life, you need both. You can't just have light, and you just can't have dark. You got to have both. But I always, when I do my paintings, I always start on the dark, and then lighten it up all the way to the highlight. So every layer is just a little bit lighter. Not that you needed to know that, but every once in a while I'll throw something out there. And I'm not a professional painter either. So I'm not offering advice on how to paint. And actually, my only advice would be, don't listen to other people's advice. When it comes to art, do what you want to do. And don't just, I never took classes. I just started. And I made a bunch of mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. Matter of fact, I do most of my learning, the real learning, is through doing and failing. And then doing again. Just not the same exact way. Finding new ways to fail. That's success. You find a bunch of different ways on how to fail. Eventually, you get it. You find that nut even though you're a blind squirrel. And that's been my journey, my artistic or creative journey. That's what I do. So anyway, somebody asked me a question earlier in the week, and I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting topic, even though it's totally never going to happen. But it'd be something to talk about, and that is, if I was president, or if I was somehow appointed head of the FDA or the Health and Human Services. Basically, the question is, if I had the power to change something, what would I change as far as my experience? And would I not? And of course I would change things. I mean, I don't think there's anyone who feels like where things are now is the way, it's never been better. I don't get a lot of that energy out there in the world, and especially not in the mental illness health realm. I don't see anyone complaining about the fact that there's a glut of services and resources out there. I've never heard that complaint before. So anyway, what would I change about the situation? And I thought, well, that's a valid question. What would I change? And we don't think about it too much because, of course, it's just an exercise. There's no one that's going to give us power to do anything. That's why we have to take the power and do everything for ourselves, because there's far less resources and stuff. So we have to do that. But I think to start with, the first thing that I would do change, if I had any power over it whatsoever, was to actually make talking about suicide a mainstream activity. Meaning, just make it a non-issue. And what I mean by that is we're just going to talk about it, just like, and I don't know this for certain, I've been told it, it's like, well, like in France, the kids drink wine with every meal from the time they're like 9. They're drinking wine at the dinner time, and so it's not a big deal. And there's not like a ton of alcoholics there because it's just something that's done. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I've heard that, and I haven't taken the 10 seconds to Google it. So I'm going to be like normal and just tell you a bunch of information that has not been fact checked. But the whole idea is I would make the conversation about suicide something that just happens, that's a given. We're going to talk about it, and we're not going to talk about it and then people are going to do it. If I walk into a crowded coffee shop on a random day and stood up on a chair and said suicide, I would bet any amount of money that no one would immediately jump to their feet and hang themselves or shoot themselves or overdose on sugar or cream or whatever else is there. It's a coffee shop. And really, at the end of the day, what I mean by that is I would make suicide, the conversations about suicide, a non-issue. We're just going to do it. There's going to be a conversation about suicide in your life, in everybody's life, and everyone's going to have that conversation. It's like the birds and the bees, but less titillating. Oh, sorry for the loud noise. I hit a thing with my mic stand. My fancy mic stand is, I'll show you. This is my fancy mic stand. Can you see it? Oh, I guess not. It's a tiki mug with a paintbrush in it that I have taped, and I have a microphone taped on the brush. That's my fancy audio setup. And sometimes I hit it with my coffee cup, so I apologize. Spare no expense here at Jurassic Park. All right, so that being said, first thing that I would change, we all talk about it. Because if we could talk about it when we don't need it, we could talk about it when we do need it. Everyone will know at that point that they are not alone, that what they're going through is absolutely okay and understandable, and that it's not their fault. For many of us, we're just born this way, and so there's no shame, no guilt, that kind of thing. So that's the first thing I would do, is increase, and just seriously, in every family, every community, just have the conversation. Suicide is not okay. And I don't mean that in a way that would be stigmatizing, in a way that would also cast shame. But what I'm saying is you don't have to make that choice. That's a choice that you do not have to make, because there's other resources to help you with the issue that is causing you that pain. Now, I know that what I'm saying is a deep and profound understatement as far as what people are going through, and that's not lost on me. But what I'm saying is that if we normalize the conversation, then it makes it easier to have that conversation when it really matters, instead of avoiding it, and then when the time comes, you feel hopeless and helpless. You don't know who to talk to, who's going to be there, who's what are people going to think. Well, we've already had this discussion and we're fine with it, and we just want to help. So where do you need help? How do we get you through this crisis period? So that's the first thing that I would do. And I think it'd be an easy statement, painfully easy to say, well, if I was in charge, I'd offer more resources. I would put more money into blah, blah, blah. And I get it. And so me saying, okay, one of the things I'd do is allocate a lot more resources to this. But in my opinion, what we need is a lot more shared activities regarding this. Meaning that I would prioritize peer support more, and peer support resources more than I would allocate, for more government intervention, so to speak. Let's see if I could try to whittle that down a little bit. I don't believe that opening, just opening counseling sessions or areas or resources just to have more couches for people to sit on, just to offer more therapy space. I don't know if that's, I think there for a while there was a real shortage, and I'm not saying there isn't a shortage, but I think that for me, in my experience, some of the best work I've ever done has not been with a therapist. It's been with peer support, meaning that you're talking to somebody or with somebody who is going through the same thing, who has experience in it, that is not a textbook experience, that is a truly life learned experience. I think that the way forward is more of a peer support driven model, that we'll be able to develop peer support communities, and that's where I think that I would allocate the most of my effort, is to develop peer support communities that everyone can be a part of. And not that, to take the learned hand or the power away from the people who go to school for that kind of thing, but in a way, those conversations, when you know that somebody has walked that path, you're more open to a lot of the things that they do and say. So that. I think that there should be more of that emphasis put on that, because we're all part of the community. We all live in a community. We're all, using the resources of that community. I just making it more accessible, and one of the ways that we make it more accessible is that we make it friendly, we make it open, we make it real. And sometimes for especially for those of us who've spent many hours in traditional therapy, that we may feel have not been the best use of our time. Whereas if we have more peer support, then we know that person has walked the path before, especially in the suicide part. I can connect with people on a deeper level since I've been there, and I'm still, obviously dealing with it myself. It's just a different level, and not to take away. I don't want to make it sound like I don't value traditional therapy at all, or I overvalue the peer support side of it. That's not the way at all. I think we need both of it. So I'm not trying to take power away from the medical doctors and the psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, those kind of. I'm not trying to take their jobs. I'm not trying to but I think there's been a real disservice by conscious efforts to keep lay people out of the therapy room, so to speak. And I understand that whenever you open that door, there's a potential for bad things to happen, and lay people don't have the training and blah blah blah. And so I'm not trying to say let's take the power out of the hands of those that are learned and that have gone to school for that. I'm just saying I would increase the level of peer support. That would be the thing that I would do to a great degree. I would double it, triple it. I would cut the defense funding in this country and just pour all those resources into the peer support and shoring that up. And and then the whole idea is, once you have that, the stigma, we have to. Stigma is like a blackberry bush, and if you love blackberries, that's great. Good on you. I don't mind a blackberry. I hate blackberry bushes with a passion. So, because they're never, you never beat them. You never destroy them. They always come back. So, the blackberry bushes, what was I even talking about blackberries? I started talking and I got visions of wrestling these blackberry bushes out. If I was in charge, I'd get rid of all blackberry. No, that wasn't it. I tripped myself up with the blackberries. At the end of the day, that happens. But how we and I'm wrapping this up because I'm obviously at the place where I'm losing the train of thought between this and that. It is what it is. So nobody's ever going to give me the power anyway. So it really doesn't matter. Nobody's going to say, okay, you're in charge, tell us what to do. And if I could ever have a part in increasing the conversations we have about suicide, I would be tickled. I'd be proper chuffed if that ever came to pass. I don't see it, but if we can increase that, and if we could have more peer support for people, that would be amazing. I would 100% be. I would vote for that. So anyway, I'd be interested to hear what you would do if you were in charge. How would you attack this issue? That'd be an interesting conversation. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're fighting. And I hope you got something out of this. I don't know. I have to process it and see, did I get anything out of it? I don't always have to get something out of it, but I always have to talk. That's the whole idea. I don't always have to make sense. I just always have to talk. That's all it is. I have to communicate because that's what we have to do. And with that being said, I'm going to let you go. Appreciate you being there. Appreciate you watching this. Appreciate you fighting. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.